Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1245B, and today's date is April 3rd, 2017, and the title of the episode is Deep State Trouble, Evidence Services Which Could Bring Down the House of Cards. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Well, it really looks like the deep state, they are getting very, very nervous right now. We see Schiff is out there, and he is accusing the White House and Nunes of conspiring to divert attention from Moscow's actions. Now, what is happening here is they're saying, no, listen, Trump, he colluded with Russia. That's what we should be focusing on. We shouldn't be focusing on the spying or the individuals that unmasked these names like Flynn. That's not important, even though that's against the law and they broke the law and they should be serving time in prison. We don't care about that. So we can see what they're trying to do right now. They're diverting everyone's attention to this ridiculous Russia story, and it's not working anymore. It's not working at all. We have another Democrat out there who just basically came out and said, yeah, Obama was spying on Trump. Marianne Marsh, principal of the Dewey Square Group, this is a Democratic PR firm, revealed that the Obama administration had been snooping on Trump as early as the spring of 2015. So here we are once again. We had Elizabeth Farkas, who completely messed up on MSNBC and admitted that Obama was spying. We have another individual that came forward, and then we have a confirmation that Susan Rice was one of the individuals that unmasked the Trump team people. So it looks like Trump was right again, that Obama was spying. Now the question is, did Obama call the shots? Did Obama tell these individuals to do all of this? And we can see that there needs to be this huge investigation. So is the FBI investigating? Well, according to Comey, they weren't investigating because, remember, during the hearings, Trey Gowdy asked him. Nothing. So how did this information come about? Well, Mike Cernovich and Bloomberg, well, they broke the story. And journalist author Mike Cernovich, well, he dropped this bombshell, naming Obama's National Security Advisor Susan Rice as the official responsible for the unmasking of the incoming Trump team during incidental surveillance. This was apparently discovered after the White House counsel's office reviewed Rice's documents log requests. The reports Rice requested to see are kept under tightly controlled conditions. Each person must log her name or his name before being granted access to them. Now, upon learning of Rice's actions, National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster's dispatched his close aide Derek Harvey to Capitol Hill to brief Chairman Nunes. And as his presidency drew to a close, Obama's top aides routinely reviewed intelligence reports gleaned from the National Security Agency's incidental intercepts of Americans abroad, taking advantage of the rules their boss relaxed during 2011 to help the government better fight terrorism, espionage by foreign enemies, and hacking threats. And that's really not the reason why he relaxed the laws. He relaxed the laws because they liked looking at these reports. And maybe they might use these to blackmail certain individuals. And guess who had authorization to unmask individuals who were incidentally surveilled? Former CIA Director John Brennan, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and Obama's National Security Advisor Susan Rice. And you would think, since this information was out there, that the corporate media would be picking this up. You'd see it on all the news stations. And what do you see? You see absolutely nothing. And Sean Spicer's out there. And number one, he says the media is defending Dr. Farkas, where she came out and said, yes, the Obama administration was spying on many individuals. And the corporate media is out there. They're not even running with it. He's saying this is devastating. This shows that they were spying. He also says that the Rice investigation is moving in a troubling direction. And we can see right now that there might be problems or something's going wrong where There might be certain individuals from the deep state. They might be blocking the investigation. They might be doing whatever they possibly can to make sure this information doesn't get out there. Rand Paul is out there, and he called the report that Susan Rice ordered the unmasking of Trump's associates a smoking gun. And Sean Spicer is saying that the most troubling part of the whole situation was the media's apparent lack of interest in the potentially illegal action of Susan Rice versus their complete fascination with Trump's alleged ties to Putin. And we can see right now that the corporate media, they're not even picking this up. But don't worry, because the FBI decided, you know what, we're not going to investigate those individuals that broke the law, who unmasked certain individuals in the Trump team, on Trump's team. What we're going to do is we're going to create a special unit to investigate Trump and Russia in the 2016 election and how Russia's role might have influenced how things turned out. We're really wasting time and effort on this. How many other people do we have to hear from that say Russia had nothing to do with what happened in the election? First of all, let's use some common sense here. Clinton won the popular vote. Through voter fraud, of course, but she won the popular vote. Trump won the Electoral College. What did Russia do to the Electoral College? They couldn't cyber attack it. That makes no sense. Because the Electoral College, they get together later on and they discuss who they're going to vote for. And then they put their votes in. So what did Russia really do? Nothing. Are they going to look at the alternative media again saying, oh, we were swayed by Russia or we're part of Russia? That's absolutely ridiculous. What they're really doing is they cannot believe that from all their manipulation, they didn't get their candidate into the White House. And they're still pissed about it. We see Judicial Watch right now. Well, they have filed a Freedom of Information Act against the Department of Commerce to obtain all records of communication between two top scientists in the Obama administration who heavily influenced the government's climate change policy and backing of the Paris Agreement. Now, they're looking for information to show that this whole business of climate change, this global warming, it's a complete farce. And the records are being sought because they could shed some light on the scandal about the misuse of climate data to hype global warming, and because the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, a component of the Commerce Department, refused to comply with the February 6th Freedom of Information Act request for their data. They didn't want to hand it over. Why? Because if it's raw data and you can reproduce it, what's the problem? Because they're nervous they're going to be found out. So they're asking for all the information from NOAA scientists Thomas Carl and Sean Holdren, the former director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. They want all of their documentation, and they want to look through it to see what they have done. They want the raw data from NOAA, and they want to look through it. And once we have the raw data, we can reproduce the experiment, because that's what science is all about. Taking the same data and reproducing it over and over and over and getting the same results. But it seems they're a little nervous about handing this information over. They were asked to hand it over before, and they didn't want to. Now they're being asked once again. And we can see right now, they're nervous, they're afraid. They're worried that the truth is going to come out. And think about all of the truth bombs that are coming out right now. We're getting the information of who these individuals are who unmasked certain people in the Trump team. Susan Rice being one of them. You know there's going to be others. You know it's going to lead up to Obama. We're going to get to the bottom of the global warming climate change hoax. All of it is coming out now. And the deep state, well, they're in trouble. Because they know if all this information gets out, the house of cards, it comes tumbling down. The whole thing is going to be turned upside down. And the people of America are going to go, wait a minute, we've been lied to all this time? And you know they can't let this happen. They can't let this happen. So what are they going to do to stop all of this? Well, there could be some type of an event. What do they normally do when someone gets in their way? They get rid of them. I wouldn't be surprised as more things start to come out if there's an attempt on Trump's life. Maybe a warning shot. maybe that'll be the first thing. But you know, if he keeps pushing and these truths continually come out, if Judicial Watch keeps pushing and the truth keeps coming out, they will take certain individuals out. We've seen it done before, and we'll see it done again. Now, we can see right now that things are really heating up with North Korea. We have former Defense Secretary Ash Carter. He is out there saying a U.S. preemptive strike against North Korea's nuclear weapons program could prompt the country's leader, Kim Jong-un, to try to invade South Korea. So that's not a good idea. We also see that the deep state, they would love to get into North Korea. They would love to invade right off the bat and just say, you know something, we're going to take it over, we're going to have regime change. But this won't fly. But what we can see that they might do is they might use some type of cyber war scenario to damage their nuclear program, to damage their missile system. They've been using it in the past to redirect the missiles. And we see right now that the corporate media is out there, and they're trying to convince us that North Korea, they have the technology to fire a nuclear missile. They have the technology to shrink it down to fit on top of a missile, and they can fire it, and we could have some type of EMP that will black out the United States. And it could kill 90% of Americans. Now, first of all, none of their missiles have the range that they're saying. And even if they did, let's say they can fire off a missile, which so far, all the missiles they've tried, we know from other reports that Obama and their team, they were cyber attacking, making the missiles go in all different directions. Well, guess what? They can continually do that. But that's not the point of the whole matter. The point of the whole matter is, why would North Korea want to attack out of the blue? They've been trying to talk to the United States, first the Obama administration, now the Trump administration, to talk about peace, to try to mend ties, to try to work with the country. It's the United States that is saying, listen, we don't want to work with you. We don't want to have anything to do with you. We just want you to do what we want you to do, and that is to stop your nuclear program. Now, again, any nation around the world is not just going to stop because the United States says so. They would like to open up a dialogue, and they like to talk about what is happening here. But the United States, their policy has always been, and I'm talking about the deep state, I'm not talking about the people inside the United States, is you do it our way or there's no way. And that means we're going to go in and have regime change. And this is why we're in war throughout the entire world. It's not about protecting us. It's not about protecting freedom and democracy. It's about having regime change and getting control of each and every one of these countries. That's what this is all about. Now, out in Turkey, we see that Turkey is not going to withdraw its troops from the country until life returns to normal in the area. So they're not going to be leaving Syria anytime soon. What they want to do is they want to build residential areas. They need to be reestablished. And the U.S. is saying the same thing. Now there's a problem because Turkey and the United States, they have different missions right now. Turkey doesn't want the Kurds to have control of the region. And the United States is working with the Kurds, and they want them to have control of this separated piece of land. Because what we know they're doing right now is they're balkanizing Syria. That's the entire plan. So Turkey, if it doesn't go their way, they might tell the United States to leave their country. They can no longer use the Incirlik air base. But we know that the United States has been building air bases in northern Syria where they could use those bases. Now again, the United States is in Syria completely illegally. The Syrian government has not invited them in. The Russian government had no part of it. And the United States and Turkey both invaded Syria without going through any proper channels to help fight the Islamic State. So this is an invasion. And the reason why Tillerson and Nikki Haley were all out there saying Assad can stay, because they've already made plans, because they know that the people of Syria, they're going to vote for Assad. They already know this. And they know they need to separate and partition Syria right now. And this is what they're in process of doing. And this is why more and more troops are going in there. This is why they don't want anyone to know how many troops are being actually moved into Iraq and Syria, because it's going to take a lot of troops to keep the entire area, those stabilization zones, safe zones, no-fly zones. They're going to need a lot of ground troops to control this area, especially when they start separating the entire country. This is why they decided to pull back on letting everyone know what's really going on. And we can see right now they're pushing forward with their agenda. Nothing has changed. We see out in Russia, there was a false flag event out in St. Petersburg. And according to the latest update from the Russian securities, around 10 or 11 people, well, it looks like they might have died, 37 were injured, and we can see right now that this is some type of terrorist attack. Now, they said they captured images of the organizers of the explosions. They also have one of the IEDs that didn't go off, and most likely it was probably the CIA, part of the Soros group, because as we know, they orchestrated the protests within Russia, and they're trying to destabilize Russia right now. And again, this is not going to work whatsoever, because we can see right now that they're calling this a terrorist attack, and they're already making arrests in the area. They already identified some of the individuals that have done this using closed-circuit television. So we can see right now that this whole plan, this whole false flag, well, this is a big push to try to destabilize Russia right now, because that has been their plan from the beginning, and it looks like they're following through on this. Now, out in the UK, we see that the UK is putting their nuclear power plants and airports on terror alert over credible cyber threats. Now, the infrastructure is not really connected to the internet. It's self-contained, and you really can't get into the system, because that would be absolutely ridiculous, because that would open you up into open up for cyber threats. So if there was going to be any type of an attack, they would have to do it physically. They would have to get in there, just like with the Stuxnet virus malware that they used in Iran. That was actually introduced physically on site. They couldn't do it remotely because their entire system was completely cut off from the internet. The same thing goes with nuclear plants, the electrical infrastructure. They normally do not keep that connected to the internet. And we can see right now that the UK right now is on high alert. They're very worried about what is happening. And we need to remember what is going on in the UK. They just invoked Article 50. They're trying to move away from the EU, and we can see that they're using scare tactics to make everyone afraid of what is happening here. And again, we know that the economy, the global economy around the world, we know it can't be sustained. We know the central bankers will not let all these countries leave. We know that they will do whatever they possibly can to keep them. If they have to use an event, they will use an event. So we can see what is happening right now. In the United States, we have the deep state. They're going to be exposed eventually. We can see the truth is coming out. Now, they are prepared and ready to use any type of an event. They're prepared and ready to bring down the economy at the same time. They're prepared and ready to bring us to war. Because anytime the deep state, the central bankers are pushed into a corner, their backs are against the wall, they have no other place to go, they know that eventually, if they're exposed, which they'll never let it get that far, they will create this event. Now, most likely, we've talked about this in the past, and nothing has changed if you notice. They will still use a cyber attack. They will still use physical attacks. This is why they're continually pushing out the idea that the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, they're building laptop bombs, and we can see that the UK is under security because of a cyber threat. They're building all of this up. They need to keep that fresh in everyone's mind, because when the event comes, they need a group, they need a country to blame this on. So they just can't let it die. They need to continually tell everyone that these things are going to happen. And what we're seeing right now is a huge buildup of all this, because where we are headed right now is that the global economy, well, it cannot be sustained. Trump is on the move. He's trying to expose the deep state, and more information is continually coming out. We see the UK, they're invoking Article 50. It's going to take 2 years now to remove themselves from the EU. We see the rest of the countries around the world, well, they don't want to be part of the EU. And the people now are starting to rise up and say, you know something? We don't want globalism. We don't want the central bankers. We don't want any of this. It does not work. And they can see that people are speaking up. Countries are speaking up. They will never let this go any further. They already have plans in place to shut it all down. And they're going to shut it down with an event, with a collapse, and a war. And we are getting closer and closer to that point. Cliff High said, starting in March, we're going to see chaos. Well, we have seen chaos. And as we go throughout the rest of this year, we're going to see more of it. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.